Good evening, my little creatures of the night. Mr. Wendigo back again, and boy, have I got a tale that'll leave you absolutely terrified of the timber tonight. Northern Idaho, Black Elk National Preserve. 120,000 acres of untouched wilderness, where the trees grow so thick the sun barely touches ground, where the silence is so deep you can hear your own heartbeat, and where something walks upright that shouldn't. Zack and Meredith Williams finally saved enough to buy their dream, 40 acres of off-grid paradise, solar panels, workshop trailer, 2 dogs, and 5 friends coming to help them build. But the forest at the edge of their property doesn't just watch. It learns, it listens, and when it starts calling your name in your own voice, you realize some places were never meant for people. This is your late night creature feature. When the forest goes quiet, something is practicing how to sound human. Before we begin, where are you listening from tonight? Drop a comment. I like knowing who's out there in the dark with me. Now then, let's talk about what walks on 2 legs in the woods of Idaho. Black Elk Hollow. Chapter 1, 40 Acres of Quiet. People always assume moving off-grid is some peaceful, soul-healing journey. It's not. It's work, hard work, sweat, sore backs, bad sleep, things breaking the second you fix them, and in our case, 2 dogs that absolutely refuse to stay out of the mud. But it was ours. I stood at the edge of our 40 acres the morning after we arrived, coffee in one hand, Bubba leaning against my leg, Milo chasing grasshoppers like a furry torpedo. And for a second, I really thought the whole 5-year plan had worked. Me and Meredith had done it. South Texas felt 1,000 years away. "Zack," Meredith called from the RV doorway. "First official breakfast on the land. Eggs and whatever I found in the cooler." "Perfect meal," I said. It was chilly for June. Northern Idaho felt like it was carved from stone in cold mornings. Our property sat against the boundary of Black Elk National Preserve. All 120,000 acres of untouched forest stretching behind us like a wall. A narrow dirt access road led in. No neighbors, no cell signal, no pavement for miles. That was the point. We'd saved longer than we thought. The land wasn't cheap, the equipment wasn't cheap, and Meredith's career change from daycare work to kindergarten teaching came with a smaller paycheck. But we made it. Spiritually. Financially, we were broke as hell for a bit. But this was ours. The RV sat near the best clearing, leveled on planks. Solar panels weren't mounted yet. Friends were coming to help with that later. The workshop cargo trailer sat beside the half-cleared footprint for the future house. A second trailer held lumber, foam board, pipes, metal roofing, and way too much quickcrete. Meredith handed me a plate. "Ready for day 2? "No," I said, "but we're doing it anyway." She grinned. We spent most of that morning cutting trees, hauling brush, marking the house footprint. The dogs patrolled. Milo, especially, kept growling at the tree line to the north. He'd puff his little corgi chest, bark once, then stare like he expected something to stare back. "Probably squirrels," Meredith said. "Probably," I said. But something about the way he stiffened didn't sit right. By noon, the sun broke through the canopy and warmed everything up. Birds were loud. Bugs were louder. It felt alive out here in a way the city never did. We had about 2 months alone before friends arrived. 2 months of building. 2 months of figuring out if this was a mistake or the best decision we ever made. The first week was quiet. The second wasn't. Weird signs. On the 9th night, Bubba woke me up growling. Not barking, just that low, shaky growl that means something's close. "Probably a deer," I whispered. But his hackles were up. Milo stood stiff by the door, staring at the window. Something cracked in the woods. Not a branch falling, not a squirrel. Too heavy. Meredith whispered, What was that? Could be bear. Bubba whined softly. We didn't open the door, didn't check, just waited until the night softened and the forest went back to normal. The next morning I checked the ground. I could have sworn I'd see bear prints, or cougar, or something. Instead, I saw nothing. No tracks, no prints, no disturbed soil. But one of the young spruce trees had a long scratch down the trunk, 7 feet high. I don't like that, Meredith said. Probably elk rubbing, I lied. Elk don't scratch like that, and not that high. But I didn't say it. Over the next few weeks, more signs appeared. Small things, easy to ignore if you wanted to. A stack of firewood I'd piled got knocked over. No wind that night, no animal tracks. The tarp over the lumber came loose on one side. The grommets weren't torn, they were untied, like someone had pulled the cord through deliberately. And the smell. Every few nights, when the wind shifted, this smell blew in from the north tree line. Wet fur, old meat, something else I couldn't place. Meredith noticed it too, but didn't say anything. The dogs hated it. Bubba would press himself against the RV steps and refuse to move. Milo would bark at the darkness until his voice went hoarse. Maybe a bear den nearby, Meredith said one night. Maybe, I said. But I'd grown up around bears in New Mexico. This didn't feel like bear. This felt like something studying us. Friends arrive. 2 months passed fast and slow. Work blurred everything together. Build, eat, sleep, repeat. The weird nights continued, dogs getting restless, trees cracking in the distance. The occasional smell like wet fur blowing in with the wind. Then the cavalry arrived. 3 trucks pulled into the clearing Wednesday morning, all honking like idiots. Clay hopped out first. Damn, Zack, you weren't kidding. You're living in Narnia. Jules climbed out of the passenger door and stretched. Holy shit, dude. I love it. Ronan followed in the second truck, quiet as always. Hank and Sierra were in the third, arguing over whether Idaho has mountain lions. It does. Bubba lost his mind with excitement. Milo barked at all of them like he owned the place. Clay had been my best friend since high school. Big guy, loud, the kind of person who made every room feel smaller just by walking in. He grabbed me in a bear hug and lifted me off the ground. You actually did it, man, he said. You crazy son of a bitch actually did it. Jules was Meredith's college roommate, carpenter by trade, could frame a wall faster than most crews. She immediately started inspecting our work and nodding with approval. Ronan was the quiet one, electrician. Didn't talk much, but when he did, people listened. He'd grown up in Montana, knew the woods better than any of us. Hank was the wild card, plumber, drank too much, told the worst jokes, but he'd give you his last dollar if you needed it. Sierra was his girlfriend, nurse, practical. The only one who could keep Hank from doing something stupid. The next 2 days were non-stop work, installing posts, framing walls, laying conduit, checking solar gear, drinking beer, arguing over level lines, classic friend group chaos. The forest seemed normal with all the noise. Almost. The second night, Sierra paused mid-hammer and stared into the trees. Did you guys hear that? Hear what? Jules asked. Thought I heard whistling. Clay grinned. Probably Zack. He whistles like a busted kettle. I wasn't whistling, I said. We shrugged it off. But I noticed Ronan staring at the same tree line. He didn't say anything, just stared, then went back to work. That night around the fire, Hank cracked open his 4th beer and leaned back in his camping chair. So when do we see a bear? He asked. Hopefully never, Meredith said. Come on, we're in the wilderness. I want to see some wildlife. You want wildlife? Jules said. Go piss in the woods. Something'll find you. Everyone laughed. Hank stood up and stretched. Challenge accepted. "Take a light," I said. "I can piss without a light." He walked off around the side of the workshop trailer, boots crunching gravel, then grass, then nothing. We kept talking, kept drinking. The fire popped and cracked. 30 seconds passed. A minute, 2. Jules frowned. Where the hell is he? Hank can piss for 30 minutes, but he'd be cracking jokes by now. Sierra called out, "Hank, you fall in a hole?" No answer. Clay stood up, probably trying to scare us. "I'll go check." "I'm coming," I said. We grabbed flashlights and walked around the trailer. The beam swept left, right, ground, trees. No Hank. Just his beer can lying on its side, still cold. And something had dragged across the dirt, one long groove leading into the trees. Not boot prints, not animal prints. A drag mark. Clay whispered, "Where the hell did he go?" The forest answered with one sound. A long, slow exhale. Not human. Not bear. Something in between. Something big. Something watching. Clay raised his pistol. I tightened my grip on the flashlight. And the forest stayed absolutely still. Chapter 2, Drag Marks. Clay and I followed the groove into the trees, every step louder than I wanted it to be. The dirt line was clear. Something had gone through here hauling weight. It didn't look like Hank had walked off. It looked like Hank had been pulled. "Might be a bear," Clay whispered. "Bears don't drag people like luggage," I said. "Cougar, then." "Cougars don't," I stopped. No point. The beam from my flashlight cut through the first line of trees. The firelight from camp disappeared behind us. 10 steps in, it was just trunks and dark and the sharp smell of sap. "Hey, Hank," Clay called, voice low but strained. "You fall in a hole or something?" No answer. Milo had come with us. He stayed pressed to my boot, teeth bared, rumbling nonstop. Bubba had refused. He whined at the edge of the trees and then backed himself under the RV steps and wouldn't move. I'd never seen him do that. The drag mark cut between 2 firs and dropped down a small slope. Clay slipped, caught himself on a branch, swore under his breath. "Light there," I said. We both pointed our beams. The groove ended at a patch of rock. There was blood. Not a lot, just a spray pattern, dark and wet on the stone, like something hit here hard. A few loose hairs stuck in it, gray, too coarse for human. I crouched and touched the edge with 2 fingers, still warm. "Jesus," Clay muttered. He swept the light left. There. Hank's beanie lay crumpled at the base of a tree, one side torn. I picked it up. "Okay," Clay said. "We're going back. Now. We need to follow it." "Follow what?" he snapped. "The blood? The scratch marks? The giant thing that picked up a full-grown man without any of us hearing him scream?" He was right. I hated that he was right. I looked around. The forest didn't feel like forest anymore. It felt like being inside a closed room with someone hiding behind the furniture. No wind, no bugs, no usual night sounds. Just our own breathing and Milo's low growl. Sierra's voice carried from camp. "Zack? Clay? You see him?" Clay cupped his hands. "Get Meredith and Jules. Stay by the fire. We're coming back up." We backed out slow. Halfway up the slope, I saw the tree. The trunk of a young aspen, maybe 10 inches thick, had been snapped off 10 feet up. Not cut, not rotted, snapped. The top half hung sideways, still attached by a strip of bark, pointing toward deeper woods like a broken finger. The break was clean and twisted. Something had grabbed it and turned. I stared at it too long. Clay bumped my shoulder. "Don't look at that. Move your ass." We went back to camp. Everyone stood when we stepped into the firelight. Sierra had her headlamp on, white beam jittering over our faces. Jules had a framing hammer in her hand like she was ready to brain something with it. Meredith clutched Bubba's collar. Bubba pressed into her legs, shaking. "Where is he?" she asked. I held up the beanie. Her face changed, like someone shut off a switch behind her eyes. "You're joking," she said. "No," I said. Ronan stared past me into the dark. "Did you see anything?" "Blood," I said. "Drag marks. Something hit him hard enough to spray and then hold him deeper in." "Bear?" Jules asked. Clay shook his head. "I don't know what that was. I've seen bears on kills. This wasn't that." Sierra wrapped her arms around herself. "He didn't scream. I didn't hear him." "Maybe he didn't have time," Clay said. That landed on everyone at once. Meredith swallowed. "We have to call someone." "No signal," I said. "We'd have to drive out to the junction, hit Highway 95, call from there." "So we go," she said. "Right now?" Ronan asked. "In the dark? Something just took a grown man 15 feet from our fire without making enough noise for us to notice. I'm not driving through forest with that thing around." "You're just going to leave Hank out there?" Jules snapped. "No," Ronan said. "But if we go wandering around with headlamps and no plan, we'll just stack the body count." Silence again, heavy this time. The fire cracked. Milo barked twice at the north tree line, then backed up, tail low. His eyes didn't leave the darkness. "What if he's alive?" Meredith asked. Nobody answered. We argued for 15 minutes. Quiet at first, then not. It looped. "We need to call 911. We can't without service. We should drive. We shouldn't drive at night. We should search the woods. We shouldn't walk into something's territory blind." Every option ended with the same problem. Whatever took Hank was bigger, faster, and quieter than we were. In the end, we did the only thing that felt slightly less suicidal. We decided to wait until first light, then hike in a group to follow the drag marks. If we didn't find him by mid-morning, we'd all drive out together and call the sheriff. "Until then," I said, "nobody goes anywhere alone. Not to pee, not to check the generator, nothing. We stay in pairs, and we stay armed." Clay nodded. "We can fortify. Get everyone inside the RV and workshop. Kill the camp lights. Less to draw attention." Sierra wiped her eyes with the heel of her hand. "I hate this." Meredith pulled her close for a second. "We're okay. We're all right. We're together." Milo snarled suddenly, hackles high. He stared over our shoulders, teeth out. Bubba whimpered and slid under the picnic table. We all turned. Nothing moved at the tree line. No eyes, no shape, just black. "You all saw the tree, right?" I said. "Snap 10 feet up?" Clay nodded. "Yeah. Thing that can reach the roof of the RV," Ronan said. "Just saying." "Don't," Jules muttered. We got to work. Clay and Ronan pulled the trucks closer in a rough semicircle, headlights pointed outward, forming a loose barrier on the open sides of camp. We stacked scrap lumber and extra OSB sheets against the RV skirt. Sierra checked the dogs for injuries and then locked their leashes inside so they wouldn't bolt through any open door in a panic. I went around and checked every battery, every flashlight, every headlamp. I made sure the shotgun was loaded, the extra shells were in reach, and the .45 I kept in the RV was chambered. Meredith moved through it all on autopilot, passing people water, setting out extra blankets without being asked, touching my arm sometimes just to make sure I was real. 40 minutes after Hank walked off to pee, the camp looked like we were bracing for a siege. The forest stayed silent. "I don't like that the bugs haven't started again," Sierra said. "Could just be the cold," Ronan said. "It's June," she snapped. We killed the fire down to coals and split. Ronan and Jules took the workshop trailer. They armed the door from the inside with a 2x4 and stacked coolers in front of it. Clay and Sierra claimed the smaller cargo trailer with tools. Meredith, me, the dogs, and the pistol went into the RV. I took one last look at the tree line before closing the door. Just darkness. But it felt like a room full of people holding their breath. Inside, the RV felt too small. Meredith closed all the blinds. Bubba climbed onto the bed and curled up in a tight ball, nose buried beneath his tail. Milo sat by the door, staring at it. "You okay?" I asked. "No," she said. "Yeah," I said. "Me either." We kept the interior lights off and used a single lantern on low at the dinette. My phone sat between us on the table, mocking me with its no service message. I kept looking at it like bars might appear out of guilt. "Do you think he's alive?" she asked. I hated that question. "I don't know," I said. "I hope so." She stared at her hands. I told him to drink water. He said beer was nature's hydration. I almost laughed. Didn't. Outside, gravel crunched softly under someone's boots. 3 sets of crunches, then a knock on the RV door. 3 quick raps. "Zack," it was Clay. "Open up." Milo didn't move. I cracked the blind, gun in my other hand. Clay stood there, Sierra behind him, both in headlamps, both holding rifles. I opened the door a few inches. "What's up?" "We heard something on the tree line," Clay said. "Wanted to let you know we're doing a quick perimeter sweep with Ronan. Jules is staying at the trailer. We'll circle back in 10, 15. "I thought we said no walking around," I said. "We won't go far," he said. "Just truck to truck, then 30 yards into the brush. If Hank's hurt nearby, I don't want him lying there all night." Sierra looked like she'd rather be anywhere else, but she nodded. "All right," I said. "Keep radios on. If you see anything that doesn't make sense, get back here." They left. Milo finally growled at the closed door, late to the party. 10 minutes passed. 15. I stared at the radio on the table. Clay's voice came once. "North side clear, moving to east. No sign, no tracks." Then nothing. More nothing. Meredith chewed her thumbnail, a habit she'd kicked 5 years ago. "Call him," she said. I thumbed the radio. "Clay, status?" "Static." "Clay, answer." More static, the kind that isn't total silence, but just enough noise to tell you that something's blocking a signal. Milo's growl kicked up again. He faced the back window. "Zack," Meredith whispered. "Something's there." I slid off the bench and moved to the window over the kitchen sink, staying low. I lifted the corner of the blind a centimeter with 2 fingers. Something stood between the trees and the far truck. Tall, thin, still. At first I thought it was a dead tree stump, then it shifted. The lantern glare on the glass made it hard to see detail, but I saw the outline. Long forelimbs, narrow torso, 2 points rising from the head like antlers. It stood just far enough that I couldn't catch its face. Bubba started shaking again. "Do you see it?" Meredith whispered. "Yeah," I said. "What is it?" I didn't answer. The thing tilted its head a few degrees, like it was listening to us through the glass. The movement was smooth, joints too fluid, like someone had removed all the limits from its neck. Then it stepped backward and vanished into the dark, quiet as smoke. The radio cracked. "Zack, you copy?" Clay, breathless. I grabbed it. "Yeah, where are you?" "Back of camp, west corner, by the stacked lumber." "Did you see it?" "See what?" The question was pure confusion, not denial. "Nothing," I said. "Get back to the RV, now." "We're on our way." The forest swallowed their footsteps. They piled into the RV a minute later. Sierra's face was white. Clay's shirt was damp with sweat. Ronan's jaw worked like he was chewing invisible gravel. "We checked the area where you found the blood," Clay said. "It's worse." "How?" Meredith asked. He looked at me. Not her. More blood. Higher up on the tree, like something smeared it. We didn't find a body, but Ronan finished for him. Whatever grabbed him is tall. "How tall?" I asked. He held his hand up in the air. 8 feet at least, maybe more. There are claw marks well over my head. Meredith whispered, "Bear?" "No bear I've seen," he said. Sierra stared at the floor. There were hoof marks. Kind of, but not like elk. Smaller, wrong angle, and claw tips at the end of them, like something half-hooved, half not. I thought of the shape outside, the antler points, the long arms. "Okay," I said. "We wait till dawn. We stay together. If anything touches camp, we shoot it until it stops moving." "And if it doesn't stop moving?" Sierra asked. I didn't answer. We killed the lantern and switched to headlamps on low, one at a time, rotating through so no battery died completely. Outside, the truck's headlights cut a faint white wedge across the clearing. Their engines cooled, ticking occasionally. Time dragged. At some point, the frogs started again, then bugs, a quick burst of normal sound that almost made me relax. Then it went silent again, just like before. Bubba stood up on the bed, facing the door, teeth bared in a way I'd never seen from him. Milo barked once, sharp and furious. Something brushed against the RV wall. Not hard, just enough to flex the paneling and make a dull thump behind the cabinets. Meredith grabbed my arm. Another brush, low this time, near the undercarriage. Then a voice, muffled, from outside, near the door. "Hey, guys." It sounded like Hank. Meredith's breath hitched. "He's alive." I held a finger up. "Wait." "Guys," the voice said again. I'm stuck. Help." Clay shook his head. "No." "It's Hank," she said. "No, it's not," he whispered. She looked at him like he'd slapped her. "You just said." "Hank's loud," Clay said. "Hank's drunk. Hank's voice has more air in it. That," he swallowed, "that sounded like someone replaying him wrong." The voice came again. "Zack! Clay! You there?" Too slow between syllables, like someone trying out words it hadn't used before. Milo snarled and lunged at the door, claws scraping the vinyl. The voice dropped lower. "Open the door." The last word dragged too long. The pitch fought itself, starting in Hank's range and ending deeper. Ronan whispered, "Don't move. Don't answer." Something pressed against the door from outside. The flimsy metal flexed inward. The deadbolt creaked. We all stared at it. No one breathed. The pressure let up. Silence again. Then, from behind the RV, 30 yards back in the trees, Hank's voice called out a third time. "Guys, I'm over here." More accurate this time, almost right, but the rhythm was off. No slur, no little laugh in the words, just a flat copy. Sierra started crying quietly. Meredith covered her mouth with both hands. The voice tried again. "Jules, Sierra, I'm over here." It was like somebody reading names off a list for the first time. Bubba pressed his whole body against the bathroom door and whimpered like he'd been beaten. We sat there in the dark, armed, helpless, listening to something in the trees practice our names in Hank's voice. It called for almost an hour. Then, finally, it stopped. I didn't sleep. No one did. We waited for dawn like it was a finish line. When the first gray light touched the top of the trees, the frogs started again, A bird called once. The forest began to sound like itself. Soon as we can see, I said. We go back to the drag marks. And then? Jules asked. And then we either bring Hank home, I said, or we get to a phone and bring someone with more guns. Outside, something heavy moved between the trucks, just out of sight. Milo growled. We all turned toward the window. A shadow passed over the blind. Low, then tall, then gone. Something strange was happening in those woods, and whatever it was wanted us scared and separated before it finished the job. Chapter 3, Daylight Lies. Morning didn't feel like morning. It felt like we'd been awake for a week, eyes burning, hands shaking, everyone on edge. Even the sunlight looked wrong, weak, washed out through the smoke haze drifting down from Canada. We stepped out of the RV as a group, armed like a militia. Jules had a framing hammer and a death grip. Ronan carried a 12-gauge and looked like he'd slept even less than me. Sierra stuck close to Meredith. Clay walked ahead with his rifle up, scanning the tree line like he expected something to step out bold as hell. Milo stayed at my heel. Bubba refused to leave the RV at first. When he finally did, he stuck between me and Meredith, tail welded to his stomach. The clearing looked normal. Too normal. It was like the forest was trying to pretend nothing happened, like the night didn't exist. Clay pointed with his barrel. Zack, trail's still there. We followed the drag line back toward the aspen slope. The dirt was disturbed, but the edges were soft. Something had moved through again just before dawn. Jules whispered. It doubled back. Sierra nodded. Yeah, it watched us in the RV and came back here after. That landed heavy. We reached the blood rock. More now. A smeared handprint-sized slab of reddish-brown on the stone face, and Hank's beanie was gone. Meredith gasped. Why would it take his hat? Maybe he was wearing it when Jules stopped, jaw clenched. Never mind. Ronan scanned the tree line uphill. Let's keep moving. Don't stay bunched on the blood spot. Things like patterns. Clay gave him a look. What things? He didn't answer. 30 yards deeper, the ground changed. Thicker moss, broken needles, slight slope upward, easy for something on 4 legs, harder for people. The drag mark cut between 2 firs and into a shaded hollow. That's where we saw it. A tree, a healthy, thick lodgepole pine, bent in half, not snapped, bent. The trunk bowed like someone had leaned on it with impossible weight. Jules whispered, That's not real. Clay walked closer, eyes wide. No tool marks, no burn, no rot. It just bent. Sierra squatted and traced something in the dirt. Tracks, but Jesus. I crouched next to her. The print was the strangest thing I'd ever seen. 2 hoof-like impressions at the front, but split too narrow for elk, and deep claw tips behind them. The back pressure point looked like a padded paw but elongated, and the stride length was nearly 5 feet. Ronan let out a low breath. It stands upright sometimes, then drops to all 4s. See how the prints change direction without turning? He pointed. He was right. Some prints faced the hollow. Others faced sideways. No turning arc. Just re-angled. Like it could pivot its entire torso independent of its legs. Sierra backed up. Nope, don't like that. Don't like that at all. Meredith pointed further ahead. There's more blood. A smear on the bark, high up, 7 feet, maybe 8. My stomach twisted. Clay put his hand where the smear ended. Something held him against this tree. Alive? Jules asked. Nobody answered. The drag marks continued into a natural bowl-shaped depression between the trees. Sunlight barely reached the bottom. Moss and ferns grew thick. And in the center, a pile of bones. Animal bones. Elk, deer, rabbits. Something canine, probably a coyote. Dozens of them. Some chewed, some snapped clean, some peeled open like someone used long fingers instead of teeth. Meredith gagged. Sierra covered Milo's eyes with her hand. Nope, you're not seeing that, buddy. Ronan squatted beside a femur the size of my arm. This wasn't done by scavengers. See how the marrow's taken? It split it lengthwise. Clay looked at the trees. Why drag Hank in here? Jules pointed at the brush. Unless he fought, maybe he crawled or... A sound cut her short. A whistle. Soft, wrong, two-note pattern. Not bird-like, not human-like. Like a man trying to whistle through a split lip. The sound echoed from the right, then the left, then behind us. Bubba whined and pressed against Meredith's leg so hard he almost knocked her over. "Oh, God," Jules whispered. "There's more than one." "No," Ronan said. "That's the same one. It's moving. Fast. Very fast." Clay raised his rifle. "Eyes up. Don't cluster." The whistle repeated. Closer. I looked up the ridge. Something stood halfway between two firs. A shape, tall, thin, unmoving. Not human, not bear. It looked like a starving deer standing on its hind legs, but with a black bear skull jutting from the front like a mask fused to bone, antlers poked from cracks along the top, crooked, like they grew in the wrong direction. The torso was too long. The arms hung low, fur patchy, one shoulder higher than the other, hind legs bent backward at the wrong angle. It stared at us, and then it lowered itself to all fours without bending its head. The spine just folded. The whistle came again, and this time it sounded like Hank. "Hey, guys." Meredith choked. "Stop. Stop it." Jules whispered. "Oh my God. It's copying him." The creature's mouth didn't move. The voice came from its chest, like it was pulling sound from a hollow inside. Then it moved. Not charging. Just stepping around the tree. Silent. Wrong. Watching. Testing distance. Sierra grabbed my arm. Zack, we have to go." "Back out slow," I said. "No sudden." The creature stood up straight. Its skull scraped a branch 10 feet up. Clay fired. The rifle cracked and echoed hard through the trees. The creature jerked, twisted unnaturally, and vanished downslope like it fell and kept falling. "Move!" Clay yelled. We ran. No formation, no plan, just raw panic. The forest exploded with noise, branches snapping, something huge running parallel to us, cutting through brush like it wasn't there. Bubba screamed, not barked, screamed. Meredith scooped him up as we hit the slope. Ronan grabbed Jules by the back of her jacket when she tripped. "Don't stop!" We burst into the clearing, stumbling into sunlight like survivors crawling out of a collapsed mine. Then we counted. Meredith, Jules, Sierra, Clay, me. We turned. "Where's Ronan?" Jules froze. He was right behind me. He grabbed me. Clay sprinted back toward the tree line. "Ronan!" he yelled. "Ronan, answer!" Something hit a tree in the woods hard enough to shake needles loose. Then the whistle again. Lower now. Mocking. I grabbed Clay before he crossed the brush line. "Stop!" He fought me, teeth clenched. He saved her. He pulled her up. "I'm not leaving him." Sierra sobbed. "If you go in there now, you're dead. If it dragged him..." Clay roared. "Shut up!" Another sound came. Not the whistle. A hollow, wet pop followed by bones shifting, then screaming. Human screaming. Ronan's voice tearing through the trees in ragged gasps. The sound lasted 5 seconds, maybe 6. Then it cut off with a wet crunch. Silence dropped like a curtain. Then the voice came again, Ronan's voice, but wrong. Clay, Zack, help. The tone was off. The spacing was wrong, like it didn't understand the meaning of the words, just the shape of them. Clay's face collapsed. No. Meredith backed away, shaking her head violently. It's learning us. It's learning our voices. Milo barked at the timberline, non-stop, tail down, every bark a warning. The forest went still. Then the creature stepped partially into view between two trees, half hidden, holding something in its hand. A boot. Ronan's boot. It dropped it. The whistle came one last time. Soft, satisfied. Then the thing turned and melted into the dark like smoke sinking into water. Chapter 4, The Last Night. We didn't talk for a full minute after it dropped Ronan's boot. We just stood there in the sunlight like idiots trying to pretend the world still made sense. Then Clay snapped. He walked straight to the trucks, threw open the back door, and started digging through gear like he was looking for something to kill God with. "Clay," Jules said, voice shaking. "Slow down." He didn't look at her. "We aren't staying here. We aren't waiting. We're leaving. Now." Meredith held Bubba tight. "We need to pack." "No," Sierra said. "We don't take time packing anything except bodies. We grab water, grab whatever keeps us alive, and we go." I scanned the clearing. Everything felt wrong. The air, the silence, even the sun felt colder. Jules grabbed my arm. "Zack, we aren't going to find Ronan, are we?" "No," I said. "We're not." Her eyes filled, but she nodded. She wasn't stupid. None of us were. Just stuck. Clay slammed the truck closed. "Everyone load up, now." We went to the RV to grab essentials, water jugs, the med kit, the shotgun shells I kept in the lower cabinet. Milo didn't stop growling. He stayed in front of the RV door facing the tree line, body rigid, barking at something none of us could see. "Good boy," I said, scratching his neck. "Keep warning us." Clay jogged over to the driver's door and climbed in. Jules took the passenger side. Sierra moved toward the second truck. Then the forest made a sound I'll never forget. A deep crack followed by a scream. Not human, not animal, something else, something angry, something hurting. Then silence again. Meredith whispered, "It's close." I nodded. Too close. Clay revved the engine. It didn't turn over. He tried again, harder. "Come on! Come on, damn it!" Click, 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 click. Dead. "Battery?" Jules asked. "No way. It ran yesterday. It ran last night. Clay froze. His face strained. "Zack, look." I followed his eyes. Under the hood, the engine cables were shredded, not cut, not gnawed, torn apart like soft rope. I checked the second truck. Same thing. And the third. All three vehicles disabled. "Zack," Sierra whispered. "It knew how to break them. It waited until morning." "No," I said. "It waited until Ronan was gone." Clay punched the side of his truck so hard his knuckles split. "We're walking," he said. "We leave now." "How far?" Meredith asked. 8 miles to the junction," I said. "Then maybe a hitch, maybe signal." Sierra pointed at the tree line. "It's daylight. That helps us." Jules shook her head violently. It didn't care about daylight when it took Hank. It didn't care when it took Ronan. The wind shifted. The dogs froze. Everything went dead quiet again. Clay raised his rifle. "It's here." The creature came from the side of camp, not the woods. The opposite direction. It had circled us. It stepped out silently between the trucks like it had grown there. 10 feet tall, elongated, bare patches where its fur ripped away, showing gray muscle stretched too thin, Black bear skull fused to a deer-like jaw that moved slower than the sounds coming out of it. Antlers cracked and jagged, jutting at wrong angles. It stared at us with deep-set black pits, no visible eyes, just darkness. Then it mimicked Ronan's voice again, but clearer this time. "Help me," Meredith sobbed. "Make it stop." Clay lifted his rifle and fired 3 shots center mass. The creature jerked backward but didn't fall. It made a hollow exhale, a noise like air leaving a corpse, and then dropped to all fours so fast the dirt under it exploded. "Move!" I yelled. It lunged for Clay. He rolled behind the engine block as the creature slammed into the truck. The whole front end lifted half a foot and crashed back down. Alarm horns chirped weakly, fractured by the damage. Clay fired upward from beneath the frame. The creature grabbed the truck bumper in one long claw and ripped it off like tinfoil. We grabbed whatever we could carry and bolted for the workshop trailer, the only thing with metal walls and a reinforced door. "Inside!" I shouted. Sierra, Meredith, and the dogs got in first. Jules slid in behind them. Clay dove through last as I shoved the door closed and dropped the 2x4 brace into place. The metal door shook instantly. Once, twice. Then a long drag of claws down the exterior. Bubba cried. Milo barked nonstop. Sierra pressed her hands over her ears. "Oh God, oh God, oh God." Clay checked his mag. "It's testing the door." "Let it test," I said. "It's the strongest wall we've got." The thing outside circled the trailer. Slow, deliberate. The metal popped and flexed with every step like the whole structure didn't want to be here anymore. Then the voice came again, right next to the wall. "Zack." It was perfect this time. My exact tone, exact pitch. Meredith grabbed my wrist hard. She was shaking. "Zack, it knows your voice." "Yeah," I whispered. I noticed. Clay positioned himself in front of the only window, a small square high on the wall. He aimed upward to the glass. "Don't shoot unless you're sure," I said. "If it puts its face here, I'm pulling the trigger," he said flatly. The trailer shuddered. Milo lunged at the wall, teeth out, barking like he was trying to kill whatever was there. He didn't stop even when the wall dented inward a few inches from an impact. Jules lowered her head between her knees. "It's going to rip the whole thing apart." "No," Ronan's voice said from outside. "Not yet." Meredith's scream caught in her throat. "That's not him," Sierra snapped. Another hit, harder. The whole structure lifted slightly, then slammed down. "Clay," I said, "get away from the window." He backed off just as something slammed against it, a flash of skull and antlers smearing the glass with moisture and blood before sliding away. Jules gagged. Clay steadied his rifle again. "If that window breaks—" "It won't," I said, even though I wasn't sure. We held our breath as the thing circled. 4 passes, then nothing. Total silence. Jules whispered, "Is it gone?" Milo whimpered. "Not gone," Sierra said, listening. I checked my watch. 9:27 a.m. Long day ahead. The workshop trailer had one weakness, the roof, OSB and sheet metal, not bear-proof, definitely not monster-proof. The first sound came from above. A soft tick, then another. Something walking on the roof. Clay pointed upward. "Zack!" I hear it. A heavy foot pressed down. The roof bowed inward between the rafters. "Get back!" I shouted. Everyone moved as the metal sagged another inch. The creature pressed down harder, testing weight, testing angles. Meredith held Bubba tighter. Bubba shook uncontrollably. Clay raised the rifle toward the ceiling. "Gonna blast a hole right through the roof." "Don't," I said. "If you make a hole, it'll use it." Tick, tick, shifting weight, Then it began scraping, claws dragging across the metal, finding seams. It was looking for a way in. "Jules," I said, "what do we have in here?" She blinked, snapping out of shock. Tools, gas cans, propane, chains, solar inverters. Why? "We're making a distraction," I said. Clay looked at me. "Are you insane?" "Probably," I said. "But if we stay in here, it's going to peel us open like a can." Another heavy press bent the ceiling downward. Decision made. "We're baiting it," I said. "We draw it away from the trailer, then get to the RV, grab what we can, and make for the road." "On foot?" Sierra whispered. "Yes." "It'll chase us." "Yes." "It's faster." "Yes." Clay wiped sweat off his face. "You got a plan B?" "No." He nodded once. "Then let's do it." I gathered the gas cans and filled an old metal bucket halfway, poured a line of fuel toward the far tree line. My hands were shaking, but I kept going. "Clay," I said, "when I open the door, go wide left. Jules, guard Meredith. Sierra, take the dogs." "And you?" Meredith asked. "I'm lighting it," I said. Her face broke. "Zack." "No time." The roof groaned again. Dust fell from the ceiling. The clawing stopped. It was repositioning for a deeper strike. I pulled out my lighter and looked at the others. "Ready?" I asked. Nobody answered. So I opened the door. Sunlight blasted into the trailer. The forest in front of us looked normal again. Green, peaceful, still. Too still. Everyone sprinted out behind me, each running the direction we'd rehearsed in the 30 seconds we had. Sierra dragged Bubba. Milo stayed glued to my leg. The creature hit the roof the same second I tossed the lighter. The gasoline caught instantly, roaring up into a wall of flame that leapt into the tree line. The creature screamed, a sound that hit my chest like a punch, not one voice, several, like a chorus of wrong throats, all mismatched. It rolled off the roof and into the dirt, writhing, kicking, slamming its elongated limbs against the ground. Clay yelled, "Move! Now!" We tore across the clearing toward the RV. The creature flailed behind us, the fire burning through fur and skin. It slammed its head into the trailer side and shrieked again. We reached the RV door. "Inside?" I yelled. Meredith shoved Sierra in. Jules followed. Clay backed through with his rifle raised. I turned, shotgun in hand, just in time to see the creature climb to its feet, flaming, skin bubbling, smoke pouring from its throat. Then it looked right at me. No eyes, just black pits, but I felt the stare anyway. It lowered itself to all fours. Its ribs stretched, popped, and it ran, straight at the RV. "Zack!" Meredith screamed. I jumped inside and slammed the door. The creature hit the RV full force. The whole thing lifted off the stabilizers. Metal screamed. Bubba howled. Milo barked until his voice cracked. Clay braced against the door as it bowed inward, the hinges whining. The creature hit again. Then again. Then it stopped. Silence. We crouched there, waiting for the next impact. 30 seconds, a minute, 2. Nothing. Then Sierra spoke, voice tiny. Is it dead?" I didn't answer, because outside, in the still burning brush, something moved. Slow, dragging, limbs cracking, skin sizzling. Then the voice came again. Not Hank's. Not Ronan's. My voice. Perfect. "Let me in," Meredith cried into her hands. Clay whispered, "We need a new plan." Jules said, "We don't have one." Sierra whispered, "Then we run." I looked out the window at the smoke rising behind the trucks. The creature limped into the burning brush, half its flesh hanging in strips, and still trying to mimic my breathing. "Yeah," I said quietly. "We run. And we pray the forest lets us." Chapter 5. The Run. We didn't have time to argue or plan. We barely had time to breathe. The creature stalked around the clearing like a wounded cougar, trying to figure out which body part still worked. Burned fur peeled off its shoulders. The bare skull had cracked down the center, exposing black flesh packed tight behind the bone plate. It twitched when it breathed, like muscles fired in the wrong order. But it wasn't dead. Not even close. And it was angry now. "Grab what you can," I said. "Water, ammo, knives, flashlights, nothing else." Clay threw open the RV closet and grabbed the canvas day pack. He stuffed it with shells and 2 bottles of water. Jules loaded the hammer loop in her jeans with nails as improvised spikes. Sierra tied Bubba's leash to her belt. Meredith held Milo's harness so tight her knuckles went white. The RV shook again, not from the creature, from the forest. Something was moving through the brush behind it, heavy, intentional. "Zack," Meredith whispered. "I know." We stepped outside fast. No hesitation. Speed was our only advantage. The creature stood by the remains of the trailer fire, shoulders hunched, arms too long, antlers smoking. It turned its head toward us without moving its torso. That alone told me we weren't outrunning it. "Go!" I yelled. We bolted across the clearing toward the access road. Clay stayed behind me. Rifle up, Jules ran with her jaw set and hammer raised. Sierra dragged Bubba, who tried to keep up but kept tripping in the dirt. Milo sprinted like he understood exactly how close we were to dying. The creature screamed behind us. Not a roar, not a howl. A copy of Ronan's voice stretched into something inhuman. "Clay, wait." Clay almost looked back. "Don't!" I snapped. He didn't. We hit the tree line full speed. The first 50 yards felt like we might actually make it. Then the forest went quiet again, hard quiet, like the whole world inhaled and held it. Branches cracked behind us. Feet pounding, fast, too fast. I risked a glance back. The creature ran on all fours, its limbs bending backward like broken stilts trying to keep pace. Its mouth opened unnaturally wide, not roaring, just inhaling, like it wanted our scent baked into its lungs. "Faster!" Clay yelled. "I'm trying," Jules gasped. Sierra tripped. I grabbed the back of her jacket and yanked her upright before she fell into a stump. Bubba yelped. Milo barked at the creature behind us, buying Sierra 1 more second. Clay fired over my shoulder without stopping. 3 rapid shots. The creature stumbled, skidding into a fallen log, but caught itself immediately. 1 bullet hit its thigh, barely slowing it. "Load!" I shouted. Clay swapped mags in seconds. "This thing doesn't feel pain." "No shit." We broke through a section of undergrowth and hit the old hunting trail that led toward the junction. It was narrow, steep, and thick with choked cherry branches that clawed at us as we ran. Behind us, the creature's body cracked, bones shifting, as it forced itself upright again. Then it mimicked my voice perfectly. "Zack, slow down." Meredith sobbed. "Make it stop, Zack, please." "I'm trying." We hit the ridge. Hard climb, legs burning, breath shredding our throats. Clay grabbed my shoulder. "Stop." "What?" "Listen." I did. Nothing. Then snap. Off to the left. Something else in the trees. Not the creature. Something smaller, faster, moving low. Milo growled, spinning toward it. "More than one?" Sierra whispered. "No," I said. "It's circling." "What does that mean?" Jules asked. "That it's planning, that it's driving us somewhere." Meredith pointed ahead. "We have to keep moving." We charged up the last stretch of the ridge. That's when a massive pine trunk slammed down in front of us, blocking the path. Not fallen. Thrown. The creature stepped into the clearing 20 yards ahead, upright now, shoulders hunched, antlers cracked and smoking. Its jaw hung to one side like something had dislocated it. It blocked the only path forward. Behind us, another crack. The thing had gone around us, flanked us. "Back!" I yelled. We turned, and something hit Clay from the side so hard he flew into a tree. Jules screamed. Sierra dropped to her knees with Bubba. Milo lunged again, fearless, barking his lungs out. The creature stepped into view behind us, too. 2 directions, same monster, impossible. "Zack," Meredith whispered. "There's 2. My stomach dropped. No wonder it mimicked so many voices at once. No wonder it could be everywhere. We were in a territory with more than one hollow stalker. The closer creature, the burned one, lunged for Clay. He rolled, fired point blank into its rib cage. The blast ripped a chunk of muscle off its side. It shrieked with a layered voice. A dozen throats fused together, but it didn't fall. It turned toward me. I raised the shotgun and fired. The slug hit its shoulder, jerking it sideways. "Run through," I yelled. "Don't stop. Go between them." Meredith grabbed Sierra's hand. Jules grabbed mine. We pushed through the opening as both creatures converged. One swiped at me, claws missing my neck by inches but slicing my jacket clean open. I fired again without aiming. Clay shot behind us. Sierra hauled Bubba. Milo kept barking, snapping at anything that moved. We broke through the line, stumbling down the slope toward the creek. The creatures followed, but something slowed them. Not us. The fire back at camp had spread, thin smoke drifting between the trees, confusing the wind. They paused, heads lifting, sniffing. "Keep going!" Clay yelled. We reached the water, fast and cold, knee-deep in places. The only thing between us and the forest road was a half-mile of thick brush on the other side. I waded in first. "Dogs first," I shouted. "They float better than we do if they slip." Sierra carried Bubba. Meredith carried Milo. We crossed fast, sliding on rocks, slipping on algae, every sound amplified, our breath, the water, the distant cracking of branches. Halfway across, Sierra screamed. I spun. One creature stood at the tree line, watching from 20 yards, its silhouette split by the rising smoke. It didn't charge. It just stared, like it was waiting, testing. The second one was gone. That was worse. "Move!" I yelled. We scrambled up the far bank. Clay grabbed the back of my shirt. "Zack, look!" I followed his gaze. Across the creek, on our old side, the creature was saying my name, but perfectly now. My voice, my tone, my exact breathing vulnerabilities. The sound crawled up the bank like a ghost behind us. Then louder. "Zack, you left them." "Left who?" Clay answered it with a rifle shot that echoed off the rocks. The creature didn't even flinch. The forest road was close. I could smell the dust before I saw it. We tore through the brush, bleeding from branches and rocks and panic. The dogs were shaking. Sierra was gasping. Jules's hammer was slick with sweat. Then the trees opened. Gravel road, empty, silent. We ran onto it like it was sanctuary. Clay collapsed to one knee. "Jesus, Jesus." Meredith bent over with her hands on her thighs. I can't breathe." I scanned both ends of the road. Nothing. Then snap. Same whistle. Same wrong cadence. From the right. Another whistle. From the left. They weren't chasing anymore. They were herding. I realized something then. They weren't scared of us. They were scared of the preserve boundary. We were inches from it, a metal marker post just ahead. Sierra pointed. "Zack, look." A deer carcass lay draped over the sign like someone had hung it there as a warning. Its rib cage was peeled open, head twisted backwards. Jules grabbed my sleeve. "Why'd they stop? Why aren't they coming closer?" Because something was keeping them in the forest. Something territorial. Something older than them. Or something worse. Clay raised his rifle at the tree line. "Come on, you sons of—" "Don't," I said. They stood just inside the shadow line, two shapes now, both tall, one burned and limping, the other untouched. The unburned one had longer antlers, branches like broken fingers. They tilted their heads at identical angles. Then they both whispered my name. Together. Zack. Not a threat. A promise. Then they backed into the dark, bones cracking as they folded down to all fours, vanishing without sound. The forest came alive again. Bugs, birds, breeze. Nature pretending it hadn't tried to kill us. We didn't talk the whole walk down the road. 5 miles of silence, our footsteps, Milo's panting, Bubba's occasional whine. When we finally hit the junction and got cell service, Clay called 911. The dispatcher asked where Hank and Ronan were. Clay couldn't answer. A sheriff deputy met us an hour later. He took statements. He looked at our injuries. He looked at the blood dried on our clothes. Then he looked at the boundary sign behind us. "What exactly did you see?" he asked. "A bear," Clay lied. "A really big bear," Jules added. Sierra didn't speak. Meredith just stared at the tree line. The deputy sighed like he'd heard this before. "Well," he said, "don't go back tonight. We'll get a team up there in the morning." I almost laughed. The forest at night? They wouldn't make it 100 yards. Epilogue. 2 days later, search and rescue found our camp. They found the trailers destroyed, the fire damage minimal, the brush disturbed, Ronan's boot. But no bodies. Not Hank, not Ronan, not anything else. The sheriff called me personally. We didn't find any large animal tracks either. Might be mountain lions. Hard to tell. I didn't correct him. I didn't say a word. We stayed at a motel in Sandpoint for 3 days. Me and Meredith and the dogs. None of us slept. Not really. Bubba refused to go outside after dark. Milo barked at the window every night around 3 a.m. At nothing. Just the parking lot and the trees beyond. But he heard something. We all did. On the 4th night, I woke up to Meredith sitting upright in bed, staring at the window. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. "Hear what?" She didn't answer. Then I heard it. A whistle. Not loud. Not close. But familiar. Too familiar. Then my voice. "Zack." Meredith shot upright. "Did you hear?" "Yes," I whispered. It came again, soft, practicing, getting better. "Zack, Meredith." Both our names now. Bubba whimpered under the bed. Milo growled at the door. I grabbed the pistol from the nightstand and moved to the window. Slow, quiet. I pulled the curtain back an inch. The parking lot was empty. But at the edge of the tree line, just past the street light, a shape stood. Tall, thin, antlers catching the faint glow. It tilted its head. Then it stepped backward into the dark. Gone. Meredith whispered. "They followed us." "Yeah," I said. The next morning we packed everything we owned into the truck and drove south. We didn't stop until we hit Boise. Then we kept going. We sold the land a month later, sight unseen, to someone from California who wanted off-grid living. I didn't warn them. I should have, but I didn't. Because some people need to learn on their own. And some things don't stay in the forest. They follow you. They learn your voice. And when the night gets quiet enough, you hear them practicing, saying your name, over and over, until they get it perfect. Folklore note: the Nez Perce and Coeur d'Alene peoples have lived in the mountains of northern Idaho for thousands of years, long before settlers, long before preserved boundaries, long before anyone tried to turn wilderness into property. They understood something the rest of us forgot. The forest isn't neutral. It watches, it remembers, and it punishes those who don't respect the balance. There are old stories about what lives at the edges, the places where human land meets wild land, the boundary zones. The elders called them different names depending on the region: voice thieves, bone walkers, echo hunters, but the warnings were always the same. Don't answer voices in the dark, even if they sound like someone you know. Don't build at the boundary. The liminal spaces belong to things that exist between animal and spirit. Don't assume you're alone just because you can't see what's watching. And never, ever follow something into the trees after sunset. Because the things that live in those woods have been there longer than roads, longer than maps, longer than the idea that humans could own the land instead of sharing it. They learned patience over centuries. They learned to wait. They learned to watch. And now, in some places, they've learned something new. They've learned to talk. The warnings say that when the forest goes silent, it's not because predators are near. It's because something is listening, studying, collecting sounds like puzzle pieces. Human voices, human names, human breathing patterns. They practice in the dark where no one can hear them. And when they get it right, they use those voices to lure, to confuse, to separate. The Nez Perce knew this. That's why their villages never sat at the edge of the forest. That's why they moved with the seasons instead of claiming permanent territory. That's why they left offerings at the boundary stones. Not to worship, to appease. Because the things in the forest don't want to be human. They just want to sound human, long enough to get close. And once they have your voice, they never forget it. Even if you run, even if you leave, even if you think you've escaped, they remember, and they follow. Because the boundary isn't a place. It's a state of mind, and once you've crossed it, you can never really go back. The forest remembers your name now, and it will keep calling. Well, boys and ghouls, that wraps up another terror-ific tale from the vault. Oh dear, poor Zack. Tried so hard, bless his heart. Thought he could build his dream home in paradise. Thought the dogs barking at nothing was just wildlife. Thought moving off-grid meant peace and quiet. But some places don't want neighbors. Some forests don't share. And when something learns to say your name in your own voice, you realize the woods were never empty. They were just waiting. And Hank, Ronan, well, they became part of the learning process. The voice thieves needed practice, just how we love it. If this story crawled under your skin the right way, hit that subscribe button. New creature features drop every day at 8 p.m. Central, and trust me, tomorrow's even nastier. Leave a like if you'll never answer voices in the dark again, and drop a comment. Where are you watching from? Have you ever heard something in the woods that sounded too human? What would you do if you heard your own voice calling from the trees? I'm always hunting for the next nightmare. Remember, when the forest goes quiet, something is listening, and when it starts talking, you're already too late. Until next time, kiddies, Keep your fires burning and your ears sharp. This has been your late night creature feature. I'm Mr. Wendigo, and the forest is always learning.